I would say 80% of my students get their first paper within the first year and a half. PhD is a long journey. It's typically 5 to 6 years, depending on the program you're in. For me, speaking for myself, when a student come into my lab, I usually pair them up with a senior student, and the senior student obviously is already working on projects, so they can get trained very quickly. I think the initial sort of phase for any PhD student is to just learn and acquire knowledge from their peers, right? From their senior students and postdocs, and that can get them up to speed very quickly. So one thing is just, is that initial phase. If there's a mentor in the lab that can help them get started quickly. Now, the other thing that I often tell students, you want to have multiple projects, right? So instead of just attacking one single problem, which can be very difficult because you may suffer from uncertainty in the experiments, things don't work. I think having multiple projects is a great way to balance your time so that you can do multiple things at the same time and then be able to ensure progress along the way. So if you couple sort of initial training with a student, which you can get papers out quickly that build confidence, and then you can tackle 2 or 3 projects simultaneously. Some can be low-hanging fruit, some can be high risk, high reward, and I always advise students to do multiple, right? Something that's simple, something that's hard, and the simple thing builds confidence, the hard thing allows you to stay in the game for a long time. And I think the final thing I would say to this is when something works, put more effort in it, right? So this is also another strategy that I often use, is like when I see a research is about 80% done, I say just push, get that last 20% done, and then we can get a paper out, and then you can focus on something else. So if you utilize all these strategies, 5 years go by super fast, and students should be able to get a lot done, right? Achieve a lot in that short period of time. I would say 80% of my students get their first paper within the first year and a half with their senior mentor, but the other everybody has their first project, I would say, completed within about 2.5 years or so. Like that's the first paper, the first author paper, and some can take slightly longer, some may be faster. The reason for that is, PhD, I consider that when you write a dissertation, you're putting together, something like 3 to 4 chapters. Right, and you have 3 chapters of body, so which means that you have to think about your dissertation in 3 papers. If you have 3 papers, you can put them together, and that becomes your dissertation body. And then you have introductions, you have conclusions, and that completes your dissertation, right? So in that regard, we space things out, right? A student getting a first paper in the 2nd year or 3rd year is a great start, because then they build their confidence. They have 2.5 more years, and if the project goes well, they can get a couple more papers out, and that's then they're on track for a PhD, right?
So beyond publications and metrics, mentorship also plays a central role in shaping the doctoral experience. So how would you describe your mentorship style? So what do you expect from students within the mentor-mentee training relationship?
Oh, that's great, yeah. So I like to think I run a collegial lab, a fun lab. So we enjoy talking about science. I see myself as a coach, in a sport game, you have a coach, you have athletes. My students and postdocs are all athletes. I no longer do experiment in the lab, but I know a lot, basically former athletes myself, if you think about it that way, right? But as a coach, what you try to do is you wanted to enhance the performance of every one of your team members, right? And so I try to identify strengths and weaknesses of each student and postdocs, and try to work with them on building the strength, leveraging their strength, and then working on the weakness as well, right? So they all know what to work on, when they're having meetings with me, and I think the collegiality allows them to feel comfortable talking to each other about their problems, whether it's scientific problems or personal problems. And I do go through sort of mentoring, plan with every single one of my students in their first year, so that I get a sense of what they want to achieve and then how I can help them achieve that. I think it's crucial that that as an advisor, we treat everybody differently in the sense that everybody deserves different attention, right? It's not like one-size-fits-all type of mentoring style. Like you kind of have to look at the student, do they need more attentions, or do they like to just be left alone and do their things? Everybody's different. But at the end of the day, the goal of a mentor is to promote the mentees, right, to help them achieve their best potential. Because we work in science, and so I would be able to see their research skills very early on, right? So the first time they meet with me, how they present, what's their logical thinking, if they share a piece of data, I can very easily see if they have considered different possibilities, control experiment, etc. So in terms of the, I guess we'll say, professional academic strength, I can very easily spot that, and then that can be very easily rectified, right? So if the students is weaker on planning experiments, we'll sit down together and sort of walk through, okay, how do you actually plan experiments? How do you interpret data and things like that? If a student comes without much experience with data analysis, point them to certain things. So those are pretty easy to do because I directly interact with them. The harder part to do is coaching them around telling stories in science. Again, I can identify that just from listening to a lab meeting talk, right? If the from a lab meeting talk, you can see whether the student has high attention to detail, right? If their slides are, full of errors, typos and things like that, you can also very easily see that. So I identify those strengths and weaknesses, and I would discuss them with the student, right? With the postdoc, and let them know, hey, if you end up going to the industry, you're on your own, right? You will not have a mentor that will catch your mistake or tell you, this is right, this is wrong. So that's why training is important, right? That's why I'm here to help them improve, so that when they leave my lab, they're a much stronger scientist and researcher. Yeah. I've always break the ice by complimenting their work, that I really enjoyed the talk and it was interesting. I think the other thing I would say when you go up to them is not just introduce yourself, but have a question in mind. And oftentimes that was the driver for me to walk up, is because there was something I didn't ask. I was wondering, what their thoughts were. So if you had that one question or two questions, you can go up to them. And I think the other good icebreaker, now your question is prompting me. I happen to work with very well-known scientists, both for my PhD and my postdoc. And the easy icebreaker is just say, I'm so-and-so student. And that helps a lot. Because they might be friends of my advisor or my postdoc advisor, they will immediately recognize that, and they start talking about their friendship with my advisors, right? So I think that's always fun.